Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Damon Levine, and I'm a facilitator here at Prude. And I want to welcome you to our ongoing Black History Month speaker series. This series is a series of free interactive online talks by presenters from around the province who will share stories on many subjects related to both Black history, New Brunswick Black history, and the present day Black community in the region. This is going to include talks on subjects ranging from Black loyalists and Black refugees, famous firsts, entrepreneurship, personal uplift, and even poetry reading. So it's my honor to welcome our guest today. Our guest today currently lives and works in Fredericton, New Brunswick. She has a PhD in social justice from the University of Toronto, Toronto's Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. Her doctoral research focused on uncovering the stories, bonds, and relationships between the early African settlers of New Brunswick, focusing specifically on spirituality and death. Our guest has researched 5 graveyards in New Brunswick, which show evidence of segregation and death, and is currently a board member of the New Brunswick Black History Society. Today, she'll be addressing the very real specter of systemic racism in the workplace in her presentation, Experiences of Systemic Racism During a Human Rights Tribunal. It is my honor to welcome Miss Mary-Louise-McCarthy-Brandt. Hello, Mary-Louise.
Hi, Damien. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone who's here. I am just going to start my thank you so much. So that is my topic today, experiences of systemic racism during a human rights tribunal. And I should probably add in Ontario, Canada, because that's where the incident happened and where the Human Rights Tribunal I attended and advocated and supported me. So before I start, I always try to do and remember to do a territorial acknowledgement. And I'm just going to read that to you. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of Wolastoqey/Maliseet. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship which the Wolastoqey, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Wolastoqey, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. So I just want to talk about who I am. As I don't know who the audience is, I want to let you know that I am a person, 6th generation African Canadian. I can date myself back to 1783. And I want to basically say that at the time of this incident that I'm going to talk about, I was living in Toronto. I had moved there from New Brunswick. I had taken a 1-year leave from my job as an employment counselor. And I had moved to Toronto to complete my first year for my PhD. University of Toronto had a residency requirement. So I moved there in August of 2010, and I moved back to New Brunswick in July of 2011. And the incident that I'm going to speak about happened on May 22nd, 2011. So basically the details are very basic. The Shoppers Drug Mart was very close to the University of Toronto. I had been in there several times, and I was reading over my transcript from all of my court appearances, and it's about 45 pages long. And in the transcript, it said that I had made over 2,000 purchases at the Shoppers Drug Marts in Toronto. So I think that's also assuming medications, and maybe it was Shoppers Drug Marts in general, perhaps because my go-to pharmacy here in Fredericton is Shoppers Drug Mart. But I thought that was kind of interesting that I am a frequenter of Shoppers Drug Mart. So on this particular day, May 22nd, it was in the evening. It was probably around 9:30. I had been in my office at OISE, working on reading in my dissertation, and I was walking back to my residence, and I decided to try to find a product that I was looking for my teeth. And I had the name of the product in my wallet, and my wallet was in my backpack. So really, I had my backpack on my back, and I was carrying my laptop in a bag. So when I arrived at Shoppers Drug Mart, I went into the aisle, which was the mouthwash toothpaste aisle, and I put my laptop bag down, and I opened my backpack. Say that quickly, everyone. Backpack. To retrieve the name of a product from my wallet. I retrieved the name of the product, and as I was putting my wallet back in my backpack, I was instantly sort of accosted and confronted by a Shoppers Drug Mart employee, and she shouted to me, "Open your backpack, open it right now." I did not open my backpack. I looked at her, and first she was really in my personal space, and I said, I need to step back because I'm kind of, stunned here. And so I said to her, "Excuse me, what are you asking me?" And she repeated, "Open your backpack." And I said, "No, I will not. I have done nothing wrong. My backpack is there, but I am not opening it." So she searched my backpack, which was against the rules and the guidelines. I guess I should have left the store, and then they would have been able to accost me and bring me back if she thought I was stealing. But anyway, she searched my backpack. At this time, the few seconds that this happened, maybe a minute to 2 minutes, we were kind of in the middle of the aisle, and there were people standing watching the scene of me being shouted at. And so she searched my backpack. She dropped it down, and no apologies to me, and she simply walked away. So I did not feel that I was treated with dignity and respect, which I was entitled to. I had done nothing wrong. And so based on that incident, I filed a human rights complaint that the employee searched me and prejudged me based on how I looked, and I felt I was racially profiled. So my next two slides are just going to talk about some basic definitions. I know we all know them, but just to sort of break down what goes through people's minds when they do prejudgment or prejudice, or when myself as a victim experiences it, and while the other person perpetuates it. So I just thought I'd include a sheet or two on basic isms, for lack of a better word. And so racism is the marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on a social constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. What is racism? And racial profiling, I found this very interesting, and I found the definition of this on the Ontario Human Rights website. There's like a fact sheet of, if you feel these things have happened, what is? So I feel that I was racially profiled and criminally profiled because I was accused of stealing. But just to go over these two definitions, so racial profiling is different from criminal profiling. Racial profiling is based on stereotypical assumptions because of one's race, color, ethnicity. Criminal profiling relies on actual behavior or on information about suspected activity by someone who meets a description of a specific individual. So I really feel I fell within those two definitions. And so, in summary, this case took 4.5 years. The ruling was delivered in October of 2015. And kind of the bulk of my talk, I'm just going to kind of educate and discuss how victimized and violent and racially diminished I felt as I was advocating for myself for being racially profiled, if that's not a statement and a half. So here I am in Ontario defending that I felt I was treated wrongly. And then the lawyer for Shoppers Drug Mart was like, he just makes me want to go to law school, because I really, I respected my lawyer, but sometimes I felt like I wanted to change places and argue with the lawyer for Shoppers Drug Mart. So, so the next few slides are going to talk about the ongoing questioning that I had experienced while on the stand. I'd taken the oath, and the questions that the lawyer for the Shoppers Drug Mart directed towards me. So, incidents during the case. So the lawyer stated to me, did I really know, or he wondered if I felt that I knew what was racism. Did I really know what racism is? He asked me that twice, sneeringly. And this is a white lawyer asking a black woman, do I know what racism is? And then another question is, or another scenario of questions where the lawyer sort of made fun of me and sneered at me because I was an educated black woman, and sort of even suggesting that I wanted a human rights case about racism because I have a master's in critical race, and this is what I want to do in my spare time, is dream up racially profiled cases. It was really quite bizarre, but I guess he was being paid his big bucks, so he was doing what he was supposed to do. So, so he made many jabs at my education. And on the next slide, I've kind of got this out of sync. He talks about my PhD. But the very last bullet, he said, Ms. McCarthy, you are a mature black woman. And I will agree, possibly, that you weren't treated well. But really, Ms. McCarthy, racial profiling, you know, Ms. McCarthy, why would you even think that? So another incident of him trying to second guess and belittle me. And he went on to suggest, and this is over a period of course, 4.5 years, different times I was in Toronto. I went probably around twice a year to Toronto for this case. And I paid my own airfare. I also had to take time off work, so use all my vacation time to defend this, to defend my case. So another question was, Miss McCarthy, she states she is a black or of African Canadian descent. How do we really know that? Does she look black to you? And so when the lawyer hit me with that, the judge hit him, and he didn't say much. The judge really let the lawyers do, the bantering back and forth, and the judge just slammed him with words and said, unless that particular lawyer had a PhD in DNA, blood, quantum to stop that line of questioning, that Miss McCarthy was a 55-year-old mature woman, and she knows what ethnicity she is. So this is also a bigger concept within the Black community, because we are also multiple faceted and multiple colors. We're beautiful, multiple shades. But apparently with this particular lawyer, his lens, the glasses he had on, he had a definite personal picture of what a Black Canadian looked like. And I did not feel that. So I was, claiming to be racially profiled as a Black Canadian when I really wasn't Black Canadian. So again, another violent attack on me trying to defend myself. Just going through my slides here, so bear with me. Again, the lawyer had suggested to me, again, on my education, Ms. McCarthy, I have done some research on you. And don't you have a PhD in race, Ms. McCarthy? Don't you have a PhD in race? And so does this PhD make you a race specialist? And again, I had to say, I do not have a PhD in anything. I have a master's in critical studies, and I call myself a critical race theorist. I study critical race, which really just looks at the balance of power of people in society, and it kind of levels the equity power of multiple communities. I hate to use the word race because, Sociology 101, race is a social construction that's based on hierarchical standards. So he used the word race a lot. But being part of the Black community, we all know that there are unequal levels of power and domination within our community. So critical race theory looks at leveling that and giving marginalized voices a talk. I'm kind of doing a little Sociology 101 here. But anyway, back to the lawyer. He sort of suggested that because, and I had, by that point, I had published my master's thesis, and if you Googled me, you probably got my master's thesis title. And so he was making a slam at me that because I know so much about race, that I was trying to put one over on the court and file a case for racial profiling, like I had nothing else to do with my life. Anyway, so this lawyer was really doing his job and challenged me in many ways. And I was able to defend myself and articulate my thoughts back, but it was extremely exhausting and somewhat violent to my own person and to my DNA and to my cellular structure, because I never knew what was coming at me, which was not the entire case. The case was that I was searched and accused of stealing. So anyway, this is a picture of me in 2015, and I won my case. The judge ruled in my favor. And the basic summary or legal award was that Mary McCarthy was awarded $8,000 from the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario in a racial profiling case involving a Shoppers Drug Mart employee. And I want to say that the printout or the actual dialogue or transcript from my whole case indicated that shortly after the award was given to me and I had won the case, that particular employee was fired, terminated. She had worked with the Shoppers Drug Mart for 5 years, but everything she had done in the situation with me, she acted on her own instinct and not respecting the Shoppers Drug Mart guidelines if you do suspect someone. And so based on that, my case was based on that and many other things, but based on her particular behavior, I won my case because her behavior was not consistent and she did stray away from the guidelines of which she was trained to do. And she was a supervisor. And I think it's also important to say that she was another racialized person. She was not white, but she was of South Asian descent. And so within the people of color complex, there is even multiple levels of racism because we all have our inherent biases, our conscious biases about, which particular community is more superior. And on that particular day, May 22nd, she she had no respect for me or what she thought I was, and wanted me out of the store. So I just wanted to talk a bit about my winnings, and because a lot of people have said to me that why did you only ask for that, and how did you come to that figure? So I wanted to say that at the time I had just started my PhD, and I believe my tuition was like 72 or 7,500. So I felt that if I did win, I would have a year of my tuition paid for. Um, Now, I did this case. Once you have an incident that you feel you want to take to the Ontario Human Rights, once you feel your human rights have been violated, you have 1 year from the date of that particular incident. And my 1 year then would have been 2012, May 22nd. So I had been home living about a year back in New Brunswick, in Fredericton, back at my full-time job. And while I had written letters to Shoppers Drug Mart corporate, and I had written letters to the particular Shoppers Drug Mart store complaining about how I was treated, I was not satisfied. In fact, the manager of that particular Shoppers Drug Mart kept calling me, and I eventually told him if he called me another time, I was going to file a harassment case on him, because he was calling me and saying, I want this resolved. What do you want? You want an apology? I'll put her on the phone. What do you want? And I said, I want you to stop calling me, or I will press charges against you. Do not call me again. I will deal with this either through email or through another avenue. I said, you are harassing me. So what he did not realize was I then was in communication with Shoppers Drug Mart corporate, and they were lovely and apologetic, and I think they offered me, like, I don't know, 200 optimum points or something. I don't even know what they offered. But what they didn't realize was that I was also looking at the website and thinking of filing a human rights complaint. So there were multiple levels of me advocating for myself in that year, and the time was ticking, and I knew that I had to either go forward with the case or forget about it. And the ironic thing was that, getting a bit off track here, but it's very interesting in the case, is that I did do my application for racial profiling. I did it online, and I did it 1 year to the day of May 22nd, 2011. But what I did do was I did it in the evening of May 22nd, 2012. So what happened when it was downloaded and printed off the next day, I had missed the deadline. So it was now May 23rd, 2012, and the lawyers for Shoppers Drug Mart wanted the case thrown out because I was past the 365 days. And so then we started going back and forth. At that point, I didn't have a lawyer. Pardon me. And they were saying, well, she's late, and she's a PhD student, she has a brain. And so I said, yes, I am a PhD student, but I don't know anything about business hours, and it says nothing on the site that this has to be filed by such and such a time in such and such a time zone. That was nowhere on the site. So I then advocated for myself that, yes, I can read and write and follow a form on the Human Rights Tribunal website, but it does not say must submit by 5 o'clock business time in Ontario's Eastern, whatever time they follow, whatever time zone. Anyway, of course, I won that battle too, because the lawyers for Shoppers Drug Mart wanted to throw the case out. So that's a little sidebar on the little steps that I took in this case. So back to the 8,000, a friend stated to me clearly, Mary, it was not about the money. It was, you asked for such a small amount. And clearly I asked for that amount because I didn't know what to ask for, and I thought, well, I want to finish this PhD. And then I thought about it, and I was making a point that I was simply mistreated and racially profiled, sadly, and I wanted that brought to people's attention. I didn't want that to happen to anyone else, and I hung in with this case because I wanted it to be an example for other people. So when I was reviewing my documents on the weekend, and getting these emails from Dame and Mary, you're going to have your presentation ready. And I said, give me another day. I'm sorry. I'm kind of last minute. And I did have a lot of other kind of projects before this. And I did want to review my transcript of like 45 pages. The vice chair who sort of chaired the whole sittings, probably, I don't know, 6-7 times I went before the board. He stated this on my transcript and to the press, that Mary will feel the negative effects of this for the rest of her life. And he is so right and so correct. Like, you'll never, ever not feel or not forget the trauma and the experiences of having someone be so violently attacking you in a public space. So I'm just winding down now. I want to say that as the judge said, Ken Batterjee said, I will feel this for the rest of my life. However, I will speak up again if I feel I am being mistreated. And I'm getting some feedback. So sometimes when you win, sorry, I have sometimes, I guess I need to say, sometimes you win when you advocate for yourself. And I also want to say that the system sometimes takes time, and you have to have some strength to hang in there. And as I also said, it was an investment of my time and my finances, because I was not refunded for this. Yes, I did get the $8,000, but that was at the very end.
Mary, this is great information you have for us, and we have some questions for you. Actually, if you're ready to take them, if you're still speaking, we can wait.
No, I just wanted to show my owl.
Very nice owl.
I'm ready.
Excellent. Thank you. That was actually kind of harrowing as I think about it, because just your experience of just being stopped publicly in the drugstore and being accused of this must have been just, not only does it ruin your day, I mean, it took 4 years to resolve. That seems horrible. But yeah, we have questions from Stephen and Debbie. And again, anybody else who's watching and listening, feel free to put questions in the chat area for Mary. Debbie wants to know if your case got any local media or national media attention, and did you also get any support from any civil rights groups?
Well, the first question was at the very end. I was nationally, oh my goodness, 1 week of my life. My son laughed and said every time he looked out the window, there was CBC, ATV. Plus, I was interviewed by one of the Sirius stations. I was interviewed by the CBC As It Happens, the 6 o'clock. My cousin was driving home in Calgary and heard my voice on the radio. So I got a lot of national attention, because it was a groundbreaking case. My case was one in that I mean, how do you prove someone's prejudging you? But based on this case, the lawyer said he felt that that young woman was prejudging me and thinking all Black people steal and are thieves. And that's what I was doing when I was putting my wallet in my backpack. What was the other question?
Well, we have a few of them for you, Mary Louise. Well,
Okay.
the second one, the other one was, did you get any support? This is also from Debbie. Did you get any support from civil rights groups?
I got supports from my friends, and in Toronto, I did get some support from the African Canadian Legal Clinic. They
Okay,
did support me the first year or so, and then eventually I got a lawyer through the Ontario Human Rights. They have a judicial team,
right.
and they took my case. So that was it. But no, I mean, other than my dear friends that supported me,
Hmm.
uh, there were no civil rights. In fact, I was quite upset that at the time I was working for CUPE, and when I won my case, CUPE writes all about it on the website, and I'm thinking, where were you? No one, like, they didn't reach out to me to say, Sister Mary, can I help you?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, it's after the fact now.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And you've just actually, so Jennifer wanted to know where you got your strength from, and obviously you've just said that you had the friends and the African Canadians Legal Society there in Toronto. Um,
But
so that
also,
was Jennifer actually who asked
I,
that. Sorry.
I will say that I am a very spiritually grounded person,
Yes.
and I also leaned on my ancestors very much and did
Hmm.
meditations. And I one time I was traveling to Toronto. I should tell this story, and I met a beautiful Indigenous woman from Woodstock, and we had gone to school together. And she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to Toronto. Where are you going?" She said, "I'm going," I think she was going to Vancouver to an Indigenous meeting. So I told her about my case, and she gave me a little leather packet of blessed tobacco from one of her elders.
Oh,
And I kept that with me and kept it in my pocket. And whenever I was on the stand in Toronto, I clutched that. So my Indigenous community supported me as well.
that's nice for strength. That's great.
Yes, for strength.
Jennifer writes that it took incredible bravery for you to go through this. She's just uh, in
Thank
awe
you.
of what you had to go through. And she wants to know what advice you would give Black youth who may find themselves in a similar situation. What advice would you give there?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was to not be immediately like responsive, like to totally not to be reactive, but
Okay.
to be responsive. So what I did when it was happening to me is I stepped back and I collected myself. Everyone responds in their own way, but I chose to be, I lowered my energy and my brain, and I thought, I am not a thief, and she is
Hmm.
not going to treat me that way. But it may have taken me 50 years to get there. So a youth, I would just say, believe in yourself, seek assistance from someone that you respect and you honor, and get someone to support you through the path. I
Right.
have been in touch. Many people have reached out to me because of this. I mean, even Osgood Law School has asked if they could use my case in a class, and I've given full permission because, Damon, I didn't do this to sit off in a corner. Like, I want people to learn from and to know that it's possible to defend yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
So, Stephen has a question, and this is also kind of dovetails into my question too. I'm curious about what sort of changes that you know of came about, on the Shoppers Drug Mart side of this after you won your case, and he would like to know if you believe employees who act in the manner that this person did in Toronto should be terminated or re-educated.
um, I think both. She was not terminated until the decision came down,
Yeah.
but I
So
mean,
so essentially when the incident happened in 2011, she had already been there for 5 years. Is that correct?
yes,
So
yes,
the resolution came down in 2015. So essentially, she worked there for 9 years before she was terminated.
right.
Okay.
And Shoppers Drug Mart put out a waiver that her actions did not reflect. I mean, Shoppers Drug Mart is a franchise, right?
Yes.
But Shoppers Drug Mart corporate said that when they are um, allowing licensees and franchise, there is a code of conduct that everyone is supposed to say to abide by. And what is very interesting too is that there's cameras everywhere. And because I didn't file my case till a year later, Shoppers Drug Mart blamed me for filing so late and said there's no cameras. Everything's been erased. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's always my fault, right? The consumer.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big company. They're definitely going to want to win their case.
Yes.
Debbie would like to know if you're still traumatized by the incident and if you finished your PhD.
Yes. Yes and yes. I finished my PhD in December of 2020.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
And yes, I am still traumatized, but I have such respect for the human mind and the human being, and Shoppers Drug Mart is my shopping place here in Fredericton. I will not go into a Shoppers Drug Mart. And in fact, soon after my case, people would recognize me and say, "Aren't you that?" I went, "Mm-hmm." And they said, "Have a nice day." So yeah, you don't forget that trauma of it's.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, you don't forget the trauma of being othered or being put down or being violated with words and actions.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And of course, you actually got respect because you fought, which means a lot. If you fight, you tend to get respect.
Yeah.
Debbie would also like to know, and this is it's a little off topic. She says you're a very strong person and congratulated you. She'd also like to know if you're from the McIntyre clan of Elm Hill.
I probably am, but I don't know. I grew up in Woodstock, and certainly there are McIntyres in Woodstock that were very much in our home every day.
Right.
So I don't have a direct line, but I'm sure there's some shared DNA. I probably resemble them, maybe. But I love Elm Hill. I go every year to the picnics, and yeah.
Yeah. Mary, can you tell us a bit about what you're doing now? And you've gotten your PhD. What are your current pursuits?
Okay, one of my biggest projects I'm working on right now is I am going to start a nonprofit. I have the documents here, and I'm going to I'm trying to find a name for this nonprofit because it's going to be to honor, respect, discover, identify lost and burial graves of Black descendants in New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to team up with the provincial archives, and they will allow me some space to do a database.
Right.
I have about 4 different grave sites right now that I'm waiting for the ground to dry up to go visit. And that's my biggest project, to identify lost and forgotten abandoned Black graves.
I find that fascinating. And of course, we've known about your work with Black grave cemeteries in New Brunswick simply through the Black History Society of which I'm the webmaster there. So we know about that. Since we're sitting here in St. John, you're sitting here in Fredericton. We know about various Black history facts from these parts of the province. What about other parts of the province? Let's say the Moncton area, or even the northeastern part of the province. What's the are we getting any information out of those parts of the province, or what happens there?
Well, I have gotten one getting some feedback. I've gotten one email from a gentleman in the Moncton area. Mm-hmm. And what I would like to, and I haven't gone to inspect that grave yet. And I mean, I'm just one person. I'm trying to get a board together for my nonprofit. I think I need at least 3 people to sign off. Mm-hmm. What I need to do is get some funding to go out and research those graves, and maybe even the use of one of those ground penetrating systems to see.
Okay, right.
Because the important thing is to preserve them and document them so that they're never lost. I see our ancestors' graves as part of, akin to the military database. There's a database of everyone who served in the military. and I
Really?
want a database for everyone who's buried in New Brunswick and possibly in Canada, but I'm going to start in New Brunswick.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, have you would the information that the Mormons keep in Salt Lake City be of any assistance for you, or is that something totally different?
Well, I've never even thought about that.
Something to think about, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I'll make a note of that, Damien, because I never really thought about that, and I think that what's the word? Um, we need to. I don't want to recreate the wheel. I
Sure,
want to
absolutely.
find strategies that will help. Sorry, I
Hmm.
just gotta hang up this crazy phone.
Okay,
Sorry.
totally understood.
Yeah. So the Mormons, they have massive documents, don't they?
They do, yes. So it's definitely something to check out.
Yes, I will do that.
And also along the same line, Stephen says that he believes someone in Nova Scotia is undertaking an identical project, which is finding out about the ancestors' grave sites and ensuring they are marked and properly preserved. So
Okay, someone in Nova Scotia.
that's correct. Stephen, do you know who might be doing something like that, or if they're working for independently or with an agency? He's responding now.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, if you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So he said
Right.
he will find out soon. So
Okay.
Stephen, and if you get that information, you can certainly email it to info@nbblackhistorysociety.org, and we will get that information to Mary Louise. Again, that is info@nbblackhistorysociety.org. Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen also has another question for you, Mary Louise, before we end today. He says, your advocacy speaks for itself, and as every person's time is precious, do you seek out youth to talk to you? Do you give speeches to like talks to youth or business leaders or educational facilities?
I do. And I have on my LinkedIn profile, I have myself down as a consultant for and an advocate, and I
Yes.
work really a lot with anyone who asks for my help.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, I was asked this year to talk. They zoomed me in for 2 different high school classes at Fredericton High School to talk about social justice, and we were brainstorming social justice ideas.
Okay.
And I love that. And I said to those young people, you have the world and you can make a change. And I talked to them about implicit bias and prejudgments, and I just tried to help educate them about, especially even the white students, how much power they had to how much power they have to erase all the subtleties of racism. And I
Right.
said, when you go out in the corridor and see people that are of different nationalities, you do not know what they have experienced up until that moment that you see them. So you can enrich their lives or you can destroy their lives. And so I really like talking to the youth. So yeah, I was zoomed into UMB for history class. That was great. I did a
Yeah.
lot. I did a lot for Black History Month this year. I'm kind of tired.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff going on, and that's a good thing, right?
Yes, it is a good thing, Damon. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Mary Louise, listen, we want to thank you very much for telling your story and sharing with us today what you've shared,
Thank
giving
you.
us a lot of great information. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we also want to just remind people, Google Mary Louise and see where she'll be speaking next. She often posts events on the New Brunswick Black History Society Facebook page too. So I'd encourage everyone to become a member of that as well. Okay, and what I also want to do is, on behalf of Prude and myself, I want to thank you, the audience, for coming into Mary Louise's talk today. We've really enjoyed you and your questions and your input. So before we leave, I just want to remind you that we have one more session in our speaker series coming up. That's this Friday at noon, and it will be entrepreneur Christine Irokwo, who is also a board member here at Prude, who will be giving a talk called Own Your Story, Reshape Your History. And she'll be talking about the need for Black people to take ownership of their stories by telling them in a manner in which they should be told. So beyond slavery and oppression. So that's going to be a really interesting talk. So we remind you again, it will, right? So we remind you again to join us here again on this Friday, the 26th at noon. On behalf of Prude, myself, I want to thank you, Mary, and thank our audience today. And everyone, be well.